man. Not another day like last Tuesday.
Cause it's Taco Tuesday.
Tuesday.
The big news.
Hello and welcome to Tuesday Newsday number 9, where our learning goal is to determine two or more central ideas of a text and analyze their development over the course of that text, including how they interact and build on one another. At the end of today's lesson, you will be asked to rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 4 as far as how able you are to accomplish this learning goal. If you rate yourself a 4, that means that you can identify the central idea or ideas, the evidence that the author uses to prove his or her point, and how those ideas build on one another. If you're at a 3, that looks a lot like a 4, but maybe you're struggling to point out the reasons or ways or brain moves that the author uses to help build those ideas on one another. If you're at a 2, that means that you can identify the central idea, but you're not really identifying that evidence. The evidence, of course, is important because just like showing your work in math, you might be able to get to the right answer, but we want to know how you got to the right answer. And again, I don't know if this is breaking news or not, but school has never been about the right answer. School has always been about the process. It's been about problem solving, and it's about a way of thinking, critical thinking skills, if you will. So, if you can't point to that evidence, I would say that you're more of at the 1, because it's not about finding the central idea, it's about how you found that central idea. Now, if you're at a 1 or a 2, that's okay. In fact, I would really appreciate knowing that, because by the end of the year, we want everyone at a 3. But if you're at a 1 or a 2, that tells me that I can do things differently or better to help you move to that 3 by explaining things differently or highlighting different points of the article or asking better questions to help you kind of move toward that 3. Today's articles center around screen time and distance learning. The title of the first article is Healthy Screen Time is One Challenge of Distance Learning. Title of the second article is Don't Cite Pre-Pandemic Screen Time Guidelines for Distance Learning, Pediatricians Say. We're going to get a couple of different viewpoints here, not necessarily contradicting viewpoints. On some points they agree, but they're just different viewpoints on screen time. So we'll want to look for those when it comes to the tone and bias portion of the questionnaire at the end of this video. And so right now at the right is the PDF of each article and the audiobook via a separate YouTube video posted in Edpuzzle. You can choose to read the PDFs alone, or you can choose to listen to me read them as an audiobook. That's kind of up to you, but please do so now. So here we are at the worksheet. You kind of already identified the topic of the articles as you read them and answered those questions via Edpuzzle. What I'd like to do now is look at summarizing the story. Now, typically I have a 12-word summary and a 32-word summary. That is going to look a little bit different today. I don't know how many words it's going to be. I'm going to have you do it in 2 separate summaries, but I couldn't tell you the word total yet, and we're going to find that out right now. The dice are going to tell us how many word summary that you are going to have to do for each one. So for the first article, for your first summary of the story, please summarize it in 5, 7, 9, 10, 15, 16. Your first summary is in 16 words. Please summarize the first story in 16 words now. And for your second summary of the first article, please summarize that story in 5, 9, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 words now. And now for the second story. For your first summary of the second story, please summarize it in 1, 2, 8, 9, 14 words now. And please summarize it for the second time in 5, 6, 10, 20, 22 words now. On to the main idea of the article. What would you say is the main idea of the first article? Please write that now. And what would you say is the main idea of the second article? There are 3 quotes from the first article on the screen right now. They're also in Edpuzzle currently. What would you say, which one is the one that ties most closely to the main idea? Which one is the most valuable to the story? On the screen right now is 3 quotes from the story and the second story, and I want you to decide which of the 3 is best supports the main idea that you wrote above. So backtracking to the first article here, we'll take a look at those first set of quotes. Healthy screen time is one challenge of distance learning. That's the headline. That's going to help me identify the topic. I need to take that and pair it with the quotes to decide the main idea. And so, as we look at those quotes again, the third quote: educational screen time was linked to doing better in school and has no bad health effects. More passive screen time was linked to worse outcomes in health and school achievement, the researchers found, compared with other categories. This is the one that best supports the main idea. Did you have this as the correct answer? Over to the second article now, which says, don't cite pre-pandemic screen time guidelines for distance learning, pediatricians say. So there's an argument going to be made here. The time pre-pandemic, pre-COVID-19, those guidelines for screen time, you can't apply them to distance learning. That's the argument being made. So which quote essentially best supports that argument, because that's the main idea? Here are our 3 quotes, and the correct answer is, I don't think they can be extrapolated that way. Dr. Cory Cross, spokesperson for the American Academy of Pediatrics, she said that pre-pandemic use guidelines really applied to time when we weren't doing homework. And so that's the crux of the issue, is that those pre-pandemic time, you can't apply it to distance learning. To say that really applied when they weren't doing homework ties directly to distance learning. And so that's how I know that this quote best supports the main idea, which is the argument that you can't apply the guidelines for screen time from before the pandemic to distance learning, because she speaks directly to learning and using technology for learning, and it can't be used as in the same argument against brain development, because you are using your brain in a different way when you are online. We know that your brain does different things when you're binging a Netflix show versus when you're still having to work through struggles with homework. And your last task before the learning scale is to find a different article related to screen time and distance learning. Then write its main idea and how it is different or similar to the 2 articles that we've read. And so here is your learning scale. Where would you rate your ability to determine the central idea of the text? 4, 3, 2, or 1?